Hello, everybody. Hello, Questers on a Wednesday night podcast with special guests tonight, Scott Clarke. Hello, everybody. It's going to be a great podcast tonight. Get your wine, get your coffee ready. It's going to be a long one, guys. I got a little ranting to do after, and Scott said he'll stay with us as much as he can throughout the podcast, and I thank them so much for that. I want to thank all my members, as I always do, for all their support and membership and fees. Judy, Daniel, Osprey Muyan, thank you so much. You guys are the best. My mods, they're fantastic. And for a lifetime contributor, Chris Adona. I want to thank my Quest of Oak Island Facebook group, all 70,000. That makes this thing tick. We're on Quest Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter, and other platforms, including Twitch, Rumble, Discord, and Instagram, and also Spotify for podcasters. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Yeah, the clock fell off the wall, so studio problems. It just fell off the wall, guys. All righty. Well, you've seen this cast member on the Curse of Oak Island show. He's a friend of mine. He was on before. We had a great podcast. If you guys got questions, throw them up on the text. I have about 10 questions for him after his little presentation of his new book. And please have a warm welcome to Scott Clarke.
How's it going, John?
Hello, Scott. Welcome to the podcast. You are now a veteran. This is number 2 for you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Happy to be on.
Yepper. Everybody's coming in. Like I said, you went once around the sun today. And personally, from me to you, I want to wish you a happy birthday today. And thanks for coming on, Scott.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. I've been out all day, so I know there's been lots of people messaging me. I'm looking forward to checking Facebook later on today.
Yep. And you got your over 100 Oak Island books behind you, all filed up nice in your bookcase.
Yeah.
On
my office area. Yeah.
Believable. A lot of people were looking forward to what you have to say tonight. And also, like I said, if you want to stay for the podcast, just let us know. Sure. And Judy will be on the telephone, but I don't know if I can rewire that so she can hear you. But just let me know if you can't hear her, because it's kind of crazy with the phone and somebody on live at the same time. Sometimes they can hear her, sometimes they can't. I can hear her, but sometimes we have a problem with the guest. Just let me know, Scott.
Sure. Okay.
Everybody's saying hello. Everybody's saying happy birthday.
Yep. I just pulled up the comments. Thank you, everybody.
Oliver's in the house. Oak Island Research. They do fantastic work. And then, like Scott, we got to find that silver number 1. You know what I mean?
I know. That's my my key theory is the Phipps Concepcion silver. So I'm really hoping there's so much evidence pointing towards it, right?
Right. And did you actually give them an X or no?
I did on another theory. Yeah. So in the book, I talk about another treasure map that I found.
Okay.
Created by a Freemason. It's the earliest map of Mahone Bay known.
Oh my Lordy, 40.
I believe I found myself. I found 2 ciphers, and Chris Morford found a third cipher on the same map, which I talk about in the book. So I actually presented part of that to the guys on the island, and I present a specific spot on the island called the Tau Path.
Mm-hmm.
So it's based on a triple Tau, which is a Masonic symbol, and which I believe is on this map, and it was created by a Freemason 33 years before the discovery of the money pit.
Unbelievable, guys. Unbelievable.
And a triple Tau, literally in to Freemasons, it means a key to the treasure. That's one of the meanings of a triple Tau, and it's pointing right at Oak Island.
Oh my lordy 40, you're driving me crazy. I love it. Now, that's another
So,
presentation you gave to the fellowship that hasn't aired yet, probably.
correct.
You got the silver presentation, and this other stuff that you have in your new book was presented in another episode or whatever they're doing with it, right?
Yeah, and then I also did the breastplate theory as well, and that was a Zoom war room, which is pretty cool. And then I was on that Freemason Factor episode,
right,
talking about my research there. So I think I've been on 3 main episodes, but they've repeated me like about 9 times. So people will probably getting sick of saying the same thing over and over, but I've been on about 12 times with the repeats.
Yeah, repeats, I've been here for 10 years. If they're not used to the repeats and patience now, that is drilled into our heads. That's part of the programming part of it, not the treasure part and not the history part, the programming of the show to put it all together to make some kind of storyline out of all this
people if they don't already remember.
Yep. All right, so let's get right into it with your book, Scott. I'll bring up the screen share, and you can start where you can get the book, when it's going to be available, and we'll get that right off the bat. Okay, Scott?
Yeah, sure.
All right, here we go.
So I just threw together a few quick slides. So that's a copy of the full cover of the book that they sent me, the publisher. I don't know how well people can see it, but so I did have some say in the cover. I specifically asked my publisher if they could incorporate that 1762 map of Mahone Bay, which they did. Oak Island is actually right above the A in Oak. And then the actual symbols, like in Oak, the O is a circle with a dot, and the A is like a triangle, which are all symbols I talk about, Masonic symbols in my book. And then it was their idea, actually, which was I really liked, was to incorporate that Masonic symbol at the bottom with the all-seeing eye right over the compass rose on the map. So it goes right, if you follow the red line, it goes right around to Oak Island. So that was pretty cool. And then I also wanted them to put on the triple Tau symbol, which is on the spine of the book, which is up in the top, within a triangle and a circle. And so that's the cover. So basically, the book, I conceived of the book about 15 years ago. When I was working with Mark Finnan. Basically, the plan back then was that he would write most of it out based on my research. And that sort of didn't come to pass, which is actually a good thing, because much later I found so much more information over the years that I was able to put into this book. And when I was on the island a year and a half ago doing my presentations, one of the producers said, you really should write a book. You've got so much material here. And so that of course prompted me to start putting it all together. And I shopped it to a couple of publishers who weren't looking for submissions, but they both loved the idea right away, and they were both trying to get me to sign with them. So I ended up going with the one in Halifax, which I just felt was a much better fit for me. They were very enthusiastic, and of course Oak Island, that's a big thing out there. So yeah, it's been a couple of years. I know some people self-publish and some people advise me to self-publish, but I'm glad I went with a big publisher, because they do all kinds of behind the scenes stuff, and there's a whole publicity that's going on now, which is really great. So
yeah, is this how many pages is it? Is it going to be like available like a ebook or anything like that also, Scott?
Yeah, it'll I was working on a description for the blind, I guess it is. There was describing the photos, so that'll be coming out, and eventually, there'll be a I guess an ebook. It's about, I think, is it 270 pages?
Mm-hmm.
There's about 40 images, and yeah. So that's the book took about 2 years to come out, and a lot of time on editing. I told people that I used to think I was pretty good with English, but once the editor got to it, it was like, holy cow! There's so many small things you kind of have to follow, and they want to make it as concise as possible. And
Mm-hmm.
I had put in a lot of people's names. I had put in your name, for example. I talked about different Oak Island groups
Mm-hmm.
and some personal names, and they said, "Oh no, it's best to not have that." And certain people will love it, but 99.9% of people won't know who they are or whatever. So
Right.
so that kind of thing, was a little bit discouraging to have them take that out. But I think it turned out well. They did a good job with the editing, and there was always back and forth with me, making the corrections. And so yeah,
Right.
it's been a great experience. So the book came out, I guess it was about 3 weeks ago. So the it's out in Canada right now, but not officially in the US. So it's on Amazon.com, but I highly recommend anyone from the US to get it from my publisher,
Mm-hmm.
nimbus.ca. It's actually cheaper that way, and it takes a week or less to go to ship to the US. So you can get it there, or Amazon.ca, or any bookstore in Canada at the moment. And within the next couple of months, it'll be rolled out across the US to most bookstores in the US. So I'm not sure why there was a bit of a delay there with that, but I think it's a different distributor.
Right.
So yeah, so since the book came out, it's not moving. I'm just trying to change my slide.
Okay.
It's not changing for me. Anyway, so since the book came out, I've had a few events. I had my first event was an Ontario Library Association super conference, which was very close to my office. So I got to go in and show the book and talk about it to. Oh, there we go.
That's me. I
Um,
had it. I had it in the staging area.
okay, perfect. So that's me at the conference. I know some people have seen that photo before. So that was prior to the book coming out. So they actually had some postcards that they asked me to sign for people, and
Mm-hmm.
it was great to have people coming up and talking to me. Um, so that was the first event. That was just prior to the book coming out. And can you go to the next one, John? Or
That's all I really have of you in my staging area as far as photos.
um,
And I just got the book like that. That's about it. Not unless you want
okay.
to reboot the share page.
You can try that real quick. Let me see. So stop.
Yeah, hit stop. Okay, you went off.
Okay, and then present.
There's always glitches, Scott. No matter what we do, we don't worry
I
about it.
think this happened last time too. It's yeah. I'm not used to presenting on the.
Yeah,
Okay.
we don't worry about it at all.
Now, can you see?
Nothing yet.
Okay. If this doesn't work, then we'll just keep going. But no. Okay. Anyway, so I'll just talk quickly. So the next one was I was invited to be the keynote speaker at a Masonic black tie banquet,
Oh, nice.
which was at a Heritage Freemason Lodge, which does a lot of work with Masonic history, and that was really cool. That was actually I didn't know the Grand Master of all of Ontario would be there.
Mm-hmm.
So that was pretty cool. So there was the whole number of Grand Lodge members that were all quite interested in Oak Island and talk about the book. I also was invited to a Scottish Rite dinner So I really believe that Oak Island is connected to the Scottish Rite more than anything else. And yeah, so basically the Scottish Rite contains what's called, there's Royal Arch within Scottish Rite, and also the York Rite. So they're the appendant bodies of the three main degrees. And most of the research that I've done is involves, as I said, a Royal Arch or Scottish Rite. And so this talk at the Scottish Rite dinner was very interesting. And they had in attendance the two highest members of the Scottish Rite for Canada. So they were the 33rd degree active council, which is pretty much, there's no higher level you can go in a Scottish Rite.
Okay.
So they were there, and also the very first person that came up to me and asked me to sign, I actually received copies of my book, and I brought them with me to sell. And one of the first people that asked me was the former Grand Master of Ontario, the year that I became a Freemason, back in 2008, 2009. So that was really cool. I didn't really know who he was at the time. He didn't know me, but then when I heard his name, and I was like, oh wow, it's, that was a real coincidence. So so that was really interesting. Also last week, I think some people probably saw that I was on CTV News morning show in Atlantic, Canada. So that was broadcast in Nova Scotia, Newfoundland, Prince Edward Island, New Brunswick. And once that was aired, my book really shot up the rankings on Amazon.
Very good.
Which was very cool. So I think it was like, number 300 or something in Freemasonry, and it went all the way to number 1.
Very good, Scott. Very good.
It was a best-selling book for a half a day. I think right now it's actually number 4 again. It dropped down to like whatever, and so those rankings change every day based on sales. And
wait till the USA. Wait till it hits the USA, then bada bingo. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, and there's already been some rankings in the USA based on this. Like I said, there was a third-party seller, I guess, purchased some copies from Canada, jacked up the price a few dollars, then he's selling them.
Oh my Lord!
So he's making more than I'm making per book.
You got to get a hold of that guy.
I've heard that's a common thing. I heard from Gretchen Cornwall, and someone was saying with James McQuiston had the same problems, and it's just a problem with being an author. But that's okay. It's I'm just very happy to have people buying the book, and a lot of people telling me that they love it. So
I hear you. And then also you got the Fellowship Treasure swag on that you got from the Fellowship.
Yeah, I have the shirt on that Rick. So that was something else that was pretty cool. The I've never received anything in the mail from Rick Lagina before, and I was waiting for copies of my book to come from my publisher. And one day last week, the doorbell rings, and it's the postman, and he's got 2 packages, and one of them is my book, and the other one is this package from Rick Lagina literally from Oak Island. Like the address is from Oak Island.
Yeah.
And it had a jacket and a shirt. I guess it was for people who were members of the 2022 season last year.
Yep.
Or so into this season 10. So I was a little worried when I saw it. I said, does that mean the show is over? And I didn't get a firm answer, but I'm 95% sure it's not over.
Sure. And you got the Quest hat, and you got the Quest hat on.
Put your Quest hat on there. Yep. Thank you very much. So yeah, it's been a great ride recently. It's been like I said, a lot of work for a couple of years, but it's now really starting to pay off. So,
well, now that you know like the process, would a second book be even a little bit easier, or
yes, it would. Yeah. And I'm already working on research, things that I found. Like I was supposed to be on the island last summer to do another war room, and I ended up getting sick, and I had to postpone it. And then the season sort of ended, and so that was unfortunate. I would have been probably on again this season, but Rick told me that I would almost certainly be back again if there's another season. So
right.
So I do have more material to present. Some of it's in the book. If people buy the book, they'll see it there first. But there's some other stuff as well that isn't in the book yet, or that isn't in the book.
Okay. Now, any of your research, I've been trying to get a hold of the chief of Mi'kmaq. Any research go to the Mi'kmaq as far as any history they have, except for what the TV tells us about the relationship with the island and the reservation up there?
Not, I mean, not that I've been involved with. I know there's talk about how the Mi'kmaq flag is identical to the Templar battle flag or something, and that's sort of gone around on certain sites. But I know a certain expert who debunked that, who said no, that's absolutely not true. So that's something I do know from years ago. From
Right. I guess they had that flag was brought to everybody's attention in the 1900s, not way back when the Templars supposedly were there, but into the 1900s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I haven't had other much dealings myself with Mi'kmaq.
There's his book. All right, got a couple of questions for you, Scott.
Sure.
What are some of the unknown connections between Freemasonry and Oak Island pre 1795? Thank you, Scott.
Yeah. So one of the biggest, I guess, was my finding that over 1/3 of the island was owned by Freemasons prior to 1795. So there was speculation that there might have been like one or something, but I found that at least 6 Freemasons, and likely more, owned at least 9 of the lots, and likely more as well. So definitely there was Freemasons there very early, and one of the very first Freemasons on the island came from the very first Grand Lodge in all of North America in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
And his lodge brother was Jonathan Belcher Sr., the son of Captain Andrew Belcher, who I've talked about on the show. So there's a really cool, Belcher connections to both the Captain Andrew's son and grandson, both directly to Oak Island, being among the very earliest lot owners. Another connection is the man who conducted the very first Mark Mason degree in all of North America was in Halifax. And within 3 weeks of doing that, he was at Chester Lodge conducting the very first meeting of Chester Lodge with these Oak Island lot owners in attendance.
There you go.
And one of the things I talk about in my book, which people probably don't know yet if they haven't read it, is that I discovered that 3 of the very earliest marks chosen by Mark Masons are identical to symbols from the 90-foot stone.
There you go, guys. You got to buy the book and find out.
So yeah, there's a lot more to it. Obviously, I'm just giving you the.
Yeah. Okay, Scott. And do you think it's possible that Freemasons were targeted for involvement with Oak Island based on the fact they usually had a lot of money to invest? And do you think that would motivate someone to make it look like Oak Island had Masonic associations? Thank you, Scott.
So the question is saying that they think it's not made to look in terms of not legitimate.
I guess, yeah.
I mean, it's possible. I don't believe that there's been people that have suggested that it's a Masonic, a fraud or a joke or something over the years. But just the family connections that I found, like I discovered, within my own family that I talk about in the book, there are 5 generations that have been involved in the treasure hunt over almost 150 years. Mm-hmm. And surely, those families, if they had known there was any kind of scam going on, they would have told their grandson or whoever it was, don't bother. It's and they didn't. They all just kept going with it. And so to me that doesn't. I don't believe that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. In believing a Masonic breastplate was once used on Oak Island that you presented, do you believe that the Ark of the Covenant is located there? There's a big one for you.
So I don't believe the actual Ark of the Covenant is there. I know the show talks about that.
All the time.
But so the Masonic ritual actually talks about a replica of the Ark.
Okay.
So there very well could be a replica of the Ark, which it would be sensational if they immediately find it. They would have to test it and blah blah blah. But yeah, I don't believe the actual ark is there.
Okay. What is the difference between Freemasons and Rosicrucians, and do you believe both work together on Oak Island?
So Rosicrucians came out around, I believe it was very early 1600s, and the first Freemasons were 1634. Sir William Alexander. They both came out around the same time, and the earliest members, Elias Ashmole and others, were very interested in both. So they were Freemasons, but they were also very interested in the esoteric aspect of Rosicrucian. So Rosicrucian actually did get melded into Freemasonry. Like in the Scottish Rite, there are 3 degrees that are very specifically Rosicrucian, and I have those degrees myself, and I also belong to a separate Rosicrucian Masonic group. You have to be a Freemason first to join that group. So I absolutely do believe they're connected. They go hand in hand, and both could very well be linked back to Francis Bacon. I believe John Dee was definitely involved as well in Rosicrucianism. Sorry, what was the second part of the question? Was there?
Do you believe both work together on Oak Island?
So yes. I mean, basically, it's Freemasons that I talk about, but I believe there's definitely Rosicrucian elements.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Here's another question here, Scott. Thank you for answering these questions.
Yep.
Can you tell us about your family history relating to Oak Island?
Yeah. So as I said, I talk about in the book how I was adopted as a baby, and I was very interested in Freemasonry and Oak Island before finding my birth parents, and I discovered that my birth mother, through her, I'm related to all these earliest treasure hunters. So I'm related to pretty much all of the known Onslow Company members from 1802, 1803, and through my dad, birth father, he was from Edinburgh, Scotland, and was a 32nd degree Mason, and his father's a Freemason, and I have Masons going back in Nova Scotia as well. So
okay, very good.
So that's been part of my what I call my personal odyssey in my book is that whole finding my birth family and finding out about my my genetic history and
right.
all these really interesting connections that I've found.
All right. You don't have a. This is only from Johnny here. You don't have a tattooed map on your back, do you?
I do not.
You know what I'm saying?
No.
You didn't find no map on your body anywhere. Okay.
No.
Oh, I had to put that one in there. I don't know. All right. Who were some of the Freemasons listed at that Chester Lodge that were involved in Oak Island? You said 7 of them. You said, I think.
6 actually. I
6.
have. Yeah. So everybody knows Alexander Patillo has been mentioned on the show. So his Masonic apron is hanging in Clarke Lodge, which is in Chester, which is was shown on the Freemason Factor episode. So he was one of the early ones. He was from Scotland. Captain James Anderson, of course, everyone knows. So James Anderson became a Mason in Maryland, and he had his first degree. And when he came to Nova Scotia, he joined Chester Lodge and got his second degree there. There's also a man named James Sharp, Alexander McNeil, John Kinghorn, and then Jonathan Prescott, who a lot of people know as well. To me, Jonathan Prescott is one of the key people.
Okay.
As I said, he was an early member of the first Grand Lodge in North America and a brother of Jonathan Belcher. And he was a longtime early lot owner on Oak Island.
Alrighty. Do you believe there's a link between the Knights Templar and Freemasonry? And do you believe Templars were on Oak Island?
So I know mainstream historians will say there is no definite link. I talk in my book how I have a friend in Scotland who believes he's found proof
Oh,
I mean, basically, there's a whole bunch of Templar properties in this one area near Kilwinning Abbey,
mm-hmm.
and that was built around, I think, 1100. And then Kilwinning also became the Mother Lodge of Scotland. It's the oldest apparent lodge. The records go back to, I think, the 1630s.
Okay.
So there's a couple of lodges in Edinburgh that predate by the records, but so yeah, I do believe that there is a connection. I think
Already.
it's maybe not 100% established in people's eyes, but I believe it's there. And in terms of Oak Island, it's not my main research. I do believe it's possible that the Templars were there.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about a theory involving Sir Humphrey Gilbert in the 1500s. He was known to have been in Newfoundland and around Nova Scotia, and that was in 1593, I believe. And then Gilbert is actually related to Captain Andrew Belcher, so that all sort of flows together. The Templars, to me, is a bit of a separate thing that could be possible, but I don't know for sure.
Okay. Scott, why do you think William Phillips would bury silver on Oak Island and not closer to his home in Massachusetts?
I mean, probably because back then it was uninhabited. Like it was the letter that I found from 1687 talks about how the Captain Andrew Belcher had Phipps's ship right after he came back from the treasure recovery, the second recovery.
Okay. Yeah.
With 1/20th of the silver.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of it was missing. And then this letter says they went to a place called Port La Bear in Nova Scotia, which I show is actually one of the closest named places back in 1688 to what would become Oak Island. So I think it was just the fact that
Okay.
I also think that it's possible that Captain Andrew Belcher might have known about Oak Island through his Masonic and or Gilbert connections, that he might have known there was already a secret vault on Oak Island.
Very, very good. And the last question, did William Phillips have any connection, do you think, to Captain William Kidd? We got to put the pirate in there, Scott.
Yeah, and I talk about him in my book as well. It's amazing that Captain Andrew Belcher actually was had very direct ties to both of them. So he was a best friend and worked with William Phipps, but he was also a member of the Governor's Council under Dudley, one of the 4 people to interview Captain Kidd when he was captured. He actually went to the Gardiner's Island. He helped recover the treasure that was found there.
Mm-hmm.
They waited on Belcher's wharf, and Belcher was one of the last people to talk to Captain Kidd before he was executed. So there's a connection there between Belcher as the Lynch. I also read I don't know if it's true or not, but there was a newspaper article, I think from the 1900s, that talked about something like Captain Kidd's was it like butler or something was involved with Phipps's someone on his staff. And there was actually a newspaper article that talked about the two of them, like there was a connection there. So I never really looked into that, but it's somewhat interesting, right?
Very, very interesting. Like I said, here's Scott's book. Like you said, you want to say again where you can purchase it through the
Yep. So as I said,
publisher?
Canada, definitely I would suggest Amazon.ca.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in bookstores across Canada, mostly on the Atlantic coast right now, but it is in Ontario and in different places. And US, I would suggest you can get it on Amazon.com. It's probably just a few dollars more, or I would suggest getting it through my publisher, Nimbus.ca, and it'll be a little bit cheaper. And like I said, it'll be less than a week for shipping.
Okay, and you said you couldn't use group names and names. What was that again, Scott?
Yeah, when I originally wrote the book, I included personal, like I talked a bit more about my family and I mentioned people I involved with Oak Island, and because I actually mentioned your website, Quest of Oak Island, in the book.
And they couldn't. They wouldn't do it.
No, it's in the book. They kept the website, but I mentioned John Stemmer and I also thank Daniel in the book as well. But yeah, there was some things they took out that they just thought was too much personal stuff that wouldn't be of interest to the wider audience.
I hear you.
So, yeah.
Well, that's where you can get Scott's book on. Scott's going to stay with us for a while, and we're going to torture him through our podcast here. So, Judy, if you can hear me, call in if you can. Judy is fantastic moderator. She does the synopsis of the show for a lot of people who can't see, and it's like being there. She's so factual with her synopsis, Scott. It's like almost being watching the show.
Oh, I know. I've seen it online. Yeah. Judy's great.
I hope Judy can hear me. I don't know if she'll be able to hear you. I think you'll be able to hear her. There we go. Hello.
Hello, John, and hi, everybody. Good to be here, as always.
Scott, can you hear her?
Hi, Scott.
I can, yep. Can you hear me, Judy?
Hi, Scott.
Nope, I guess not.
Here, try this. Let me unplug this. Go ahead.
Hey, Judy, can you hear me?
Hi, Scott. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. She can't hear me.
Hold on, guys.
Nope. Now I can't hear you, John. I can't hear anything, John. I think you're on mute.
John, some of our members are saying they can't hear you at all.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah. I do enough talking.
Okay.
You're not.
So I can hear you, John, but I can hear Judy. I don't know if you can hear me.
Right. So Judy's not going to be able to hear you. So otherwise, when you have a phone with live people on here, there's some kind of connection that I got to get an extra adapter or something. I have no idea.
Okay.
I tried, guys. All right, Judy, let me add you to the stream. When you're ready, go ahead, Judy.
All righty, guys. And we're at season 10, episode 24, Down the Hatch. It's a new day filled with optimism on Oak Island. And at the garden shaft, 91 feet down, Dumas is ready to start probe drilling through the bottom of the shaft in hopes of finding the tunnel that the team found earlier this season at 95 feet down. It is now a race against time as winter approaches. Meanwhile, in the war room, the team is discussing the recent trip to Italy made by Doug, Rick, Peter, and Alex. They talk about the many caves they inspected and the many symbols found on the walls of these caves that are also found on Oak Island. Many of them Templar symbols. Alex shows them the most interesting one found on the pillar of a church, which reads the letters H-I-C. In Latin, these letters mean here. By rearranging the I and C, Alex believes this could mean here Templar gold. These same symbols are on the H-O stone on Oak Island. Could it be these symbols are pointing to Templar treasure on Oak Island? Certainly more research is needed, and perhaps we will get the answer in season 11. Later that day, we find the team in the swamp looking at the stone ramp that they now concede does connect to the stone paved area and the stone road. Rick says the ramp is definitely man-made, and Ian points out that they are having the twigs found under the rocks carbon dated. At this point, Rick's phone rings, and it's Scott, who is at the garden shaft, informing them that they believe they have found the tunnel under the shaft at 91 feet down. Off to the garden shaft they all go. Upon arriving at the shaft, Roger from Dumas informs them they have sent the probe drill down under the shaft and have found wood. The team decides to put a casing down the probe hole using PVC piping, then put the camera down in order to not disturb the area too much. They get to work. Over on Lot 5, Laird and Jack are continuing a dig on the round stone structure in the ground. Jack finds a piece of red earthenware pottery Laird says was used in the 1700s. A few minutes later, Laird finds a piece of the same pottery and believes it could even be from the same vessel. Laird declares, "We need to find out what this structure is, and we need to do it this year." Back at the garden shaft, Dumas has inserted the camera into the probe hole as the team gathers to watch. They find some wood and lots of clay at the bottom of the hole. They decide to pull the camera and coat the hole with urethane in order to drill through the wood and clay. The next day on Lot 5, Laird is updating the team on the progress of the dig. He tells them the structure is larger than they originally thought, as the edge is 4 feet further out. Laird decides to dig deeper and to dig out 4 more feet. They will need a crane to remove the large rocks first. Jack then asks, could this be the hatch that's on Zena's map? It's in the right area. Could it be? And will we find out this season? Later in the war room, the team is meeting via video with scientist Chris McFarland from his lab, where he has just finished testing the round corrugated disc found on Lot 5 earlier this year. He says the artifact has been in the ground for over 100 years and is made from the same metal from France as the cross found at Smith's Cove. Chris tells them this artifact is the only one ever to come across his lab that equals the cross. Both pieces date to the 14th century. Gary found this artifact close to the round stone structure on Lot 5 and wonders if it came out of the fill in the hole. Is this another tie to the Templars? Dr. McFarland agrees to do more research on the item. That afternoon, the team is working on the stone ramp in the swamp, hoping to find the far edge. Gary's beeper goes off and Jack digs up a brass doorknob that Gary says could be from a ship's door or cabinet. He bags it. After letting Billy do a little more digging, the guys get down into the hole with shovels and eventually do find the far edge. They can now see that the ramp does line up with the stone road and the paved area. Alex asks, what was its purpose? more work is needed. The following morning at the garden shaft, Dumas is ready to drill through the bottom of the shaft at 91 to 92 feet down. The 4-inch drill starts up, but is moving very slowly. They are hitting something really hard, and the drill stops working. Rick suggests they pull it up to see if anything is on it. They find a very small piece of wood, and Roger says it's not new wood, and Marty points out the piece is large enough to carbon date. Rick then asks if Dumas can pull up the 4-inch drill and put a 6-inch drill down. Roger says that can be done. As Marty warns the team that with winter very near, time is running out, and they call it a day. Will next week's final show of the season show us what is under the shaft, or are we going to be left hanging until season 11? Stay tuned, Quest family, and stay safe, please.
Fantastic. Judy, as always, thank you so much. Very professionally done.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you.
That Judy, she's the best.
Yep, for sure. So one of the,
Thank you, John. I appreciate it so much.
Okay. What do you got, Scott?
I was going to say, one of the things that kind of strikes me, they're talking a lot about Lot 5 recently and the anomalies there. I know that Lot 5 was owned by a man named Timothy Lynch, who also owned the lot next to the money pit. He was one of the first owners. And I talk in my book how 2 of his sons became Freemasons in Chester Lodge just after 1795. And the main reason that men became Masons then and even now is usually because their father was a Mason. So I also know that Caspar Woolenhoopt, who owned Lot 18, the money pit lot, his son became a Freemason. So it's very possible that Woolenhoopt and Lynch were Masons as well. And of course, and like I said, he owned Lot 5 in addition to the one next to the money pit.
Unbelievable. Again, I'm going to put your book up.
There could be a connection there. You never know.
There's Scott's book, Oak Island Odyssey, A Masonic Quest. And there it'll be. So either you still want to stay with us or you want to book out. How's that sound for an out?
I'm good for a while. Thanks, John.
All right. All right, guys. Usually I do one thing with a pet peeve. It's sort of my little crazy thing I do. Johnny's brain works. So they're doing a new lab on top of the museum for more research, more x-ray machines, more all kinds of diagnostic machinery to get it out of the museum. So when the tours start, they'll have their own lab. You know what I mean?
Right.
So this updated picture came here, guys. Now, I got a civil engineering background, okay? What struck me funny about this new addition on the museum is they're in Nova Scotia, right, Scott?
Yep.
You guys get a lot of nasty weather, right, Scott?
Oh, me. Sorry, I'm not in Nova Scotia. I'm in Toronto.
Oh, Toronto, but in Nova Scotia. In Nova Scotia.
We both do. We both do. Yeah.
Right. They get a lot of snow, right?
Yep.
Why in the world? This is why the fellowship drives me crazy no matter what they do. Building houses, looking for treasure. Why would you have windows only a foot off the ground?
That is kind of weird, isn't it?
You know what I mean? It's like, you know, when I looked at the foundation, it's not a sunken lab floor. That floor is right there where that white border is. Now,
Yeah,
why in Nova Scotia, with the winters they have, do you have windows a foot off the ground? Another question for the quest.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, guys? It does, John. And I never even thought about it when I looked at it.
But I wonder if it would ever be open year round, right? It might only be open during the spring to fall months or something.
I have no idea. If they're getting all this equipment, Scott, maybe they'll take things from around the world and and analyze them since they have the machinery there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
In between, if they find something in the swamp or something on lot 5, and continuously use it. You know, Emma.
Yep.
But I don't know, maybe 18 inches, 20 inches high. I don't know, but it just seems awful weird to me to have such low windows in that kind of climate. That's only me. That's only Johnny thinking. That's how my brain works. You know what I mean, Judy?
Yeah, I got you, John. I had not thought about it, but I know that it wouldn't be good where I live.
Especially when the water comes down here and it starts raining. Forget it.
Yep.
Ready? Now we're going to go through some screenshots, Scott, of the show, and basically go over and see what Judy said. Alrighty, here's that guy Roger they're talking about from Dumas Mining. Obviously, Scott, you didn't meet any of them from the mining.
No, so another cool little fact. So I work in downtown Toronto.
Okay.
And at a certain building, and I found out that Dumas actually has their head office in my building.
Holy crap!
In downtown Toronto, yeah, it was a total. So they of course they have mines up in northern Ontario, where some of the guys are from, the actual the workers on the island. But I know at least one of the guys works in the same building as me, and I was hoping to pop up and meet him one day.
Yeah. We're all looking for the teasers that they gave us in the beginning of the season. That's when Daniel says, "Where's the blue jewel?" And me, I'm always yelling, "Holy Muon," because of Muon technology. We haven't heard of.
Kind of stopped.
And I'm thinking, Scott, like I told my members, I got a civil engineering background, and the only thing I can think of is that choice drilling that does all that vibration to drill down. They just got too close to the sensors, even though they said 10 feet away. The money pit is so much jibble-jabbled that vibrations will go right through all that wood and all that backfill more than it would if it was just regular fill, not touched. You know, Scott?
Right.
And here they are starting up the drill that they're going to drill that 4-inch drill bit at the 91-foot level. Now, do you keep up to date on the programs every week, Scott, or no?
I do, but I'm behind in Canada, so I know there's people who can access, but I haven't seen this episode yet.
Right, you get this on Sunday, like everybody else in Canada, right?
Yeah.
Spoiler, I'm spoiling it for you.
Yeah, that's okay.
And the whole season was this: the garden shaft, rebuilding the garden shaft, looking for a ramp in the swamp, some surface finds, and we went on a world tour trying to put research, factual things together and tie it into Oak Island. So that's basically the whole season 10, to tell you the truth.
Yep.
This is when they're saying they're about 90 feet down. There's some of the wood they found with the gold in there. Because they were always saying this tunnel was 95 feet down, Scott. That's why I put up there that, they're hitting it at 90 feet. It could be the top. And then you had 4 feet of tunnel, so that would be 95,
Right.
And there they are with their drill on the side. You see where they're drilling inside the garden shaft. I'm still surprised at this level. The 90-foot stone, the flood came in. We're at 91 and no water yet. And here's the tunnel they're looking for, an original deposited tunnel that's underneath there, right, Judy?
Yes, very clearly we can see it there. I hope, heck, it's very clear when they find it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So there's the hole. They do put some kind of goop in there to waterproof it when they put a casing down in there and stuff. So they know what they're doing. I mean, they're the professionals, so they're not going to be they're going to be overcautious when they're doing things like this here.
Yeah.
And this is what they're trying to find, that 95-foot tunnel. or which they call the offset chamber. But they're getting a lot of members and myself confused. They keep on calling the garden shaft the money pit. Well, nobody knows where the money pit is. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, they're assuming it's in that baby blob area, right? It's
Yeah.
somewhere in that vicinity.
Yeah, about 15 feet away, somewhere in there, I guess. Offset chamber, but. And I gave Blink's Bottling Company a free promo here.
I didn't even notice that.
Giving a shout out to the people in Canada. And again, we got to hear about the H.O. stone.
Yep.
And this is where they're talking about the depth. And here they are back at the swamp, which also, Scott, they found an anomaly 3 foot deep on the southeast side of the peninsula that Fred Nolan made. We haven't gotten to it yet. There's about 15 things they haven't returned to yet. And we only have 1 hour show left next week. So I don't know what the heck they're going to be showing.
Exactly. Yeah.
And this is this ramp that goes to the pave area, which does nothing for me, really. I mean, they're finding twigs underneath the ramp in the paved area. They knew about this paved area in 1795. Now, there's paperwork on that. But as far as getting dates, okay, 1200. But otherwise, you know, what was it? A wharf? What was it? A path? I still don't have no idea what the heck thing was, but I would call it sort of more of a wharf if it was dug out deeper to offload things on a smaller ship, because a bigger ship couldn't get close. Because even the water levels would have been lower even then. You know, Scott?
Yep.
Where does it lead? To the path. That 650-foot path. We found some, not fireplaces, but fire pits, pottery. But I'm getting like Marty, Scott. We want to find something of some kind of substance of something. I'm getting data overload. And don't you see? I mean, as a book writer now, right? How do you know, all these books written about Oak Island and all these theories, yet not one is closed off saying, nope, it can't be that. Not one could be closed off. What do you think of that?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I certainly believe my silver theory to be the strongest evidence-based theory.
Okay.
Just the fact that they found silver deep in the money pit.
Right.
I talk about how they actually found silver ingots on the island back in the 1860s.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, you know, the letter that I found and the map, the mole map saying that La Plata is in Mahone Bay, and it means the silver, right?
Yep.
So there's also work that Graham Harris did on. So I just think there's so much evidence pointing towards that possible theory. Of course, any theory could be correct, but and again, a lot of these books are very different, right? There's been my book I know is at least 90% new content that people wouldn't have seen before. So,
and that's what people are looking for. You know what I mean?
So I take pride in that, and I know that for example, James McQuiston has a Freemason book that came out recently, but his is completely different than mine. He's going in a different direction. So we're actually looking to read each other's books and maybe look for some common ground to work on in the future. But
with that,
but yeah, sorry, go ahead.
With that James McQuiston, he seems like he writes a book every 3 weeks.
He did.
I mean?
Yeah,
I mean, does it point to anything? I mean, you just keep on, you know, here's my 20th book. Well, let's get to the point. Not get to the point. What do I want to say? Well, after writing 20 books, the fellowship say, hey, okay, this guy's on the ball. This is what it is. And this is what the treasure is. No, they don't say any of that. He just keeps on writing books. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I know his main theory was the Knights Baronets, and that was one of the top theories they talked about on the show. And and all of his research kind of led eventually towards Freemasonry, like mine all does as well. So
Yeah.
they've counted down the top 10 theories last year, and almost every one of them had some link to Freemasonry somehow.
Yeah.
You know, like there was Prince Henry Sinclair, and like every one of them had some sort of a link to Freemasonry. So I think that's what's going to be found eventually, that there's, or I hope there'll be some sort of proof that comes out that proves that there was. I believe that the money pit was used as an initiation pit as well at one time.
Initiation chamber.
Yeah, which all goes into the whole Royal Arch degrees, the ninth arch. But yeah, I mean, we'll see, right? I really hope they find something concrete once and for all, and not just stop the show and
but that's like
leave us all hanging.
We got two physical things. We got the island itself and Nolan's Cross. But Nolan's Cross just didn't appear out of nowhere. You know, I mean, what else do we have really there? Well, okay, we got this paved area and this rampy looking thing, but what we have is the island and the lots and Nolan's Cross that's still there for some reason.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it all started with the money pit, right? That was the whole reason why I've always believed that the money pit started as a natural sinkhole.
A lot of people say that. Yeah,
I think that's why Oak Island was chosen, was just that they happened to find a natural sinkhole that was already there, and they modified it. It would have taken way less manpower, way less time, and that's my theory that of why Oak Island was specifically chosen.
Here we go.
And then of course the swamp, became an addition later, and Nolan's Cross, that was I think in the 90s that was discovered that it had specific alignment and measurement that and then my friend Petter came up with the theory that it's half of a Kabbalistic tree of life, which I talk about in my book quite a bit as well. So I mean, it's all very interesting. And
right, here's a question for you.
Yep.
Do you have a theory, being most of these findings were around 1750s, the majority of original owners of lots are associated with Luxembourg, and that this pit may have stored the booty? This is this 13-foot round pit that's on lot 5, Scott.
Oh, lot 5. I mean, yeah, it's certainly possible. A lot of the people in my research also were connected to Louisbourg. A lot of Freemasons were there. Like there was a lodge at Louisbourg. One of the first lot owners on Oak Island was a Freemason who was at Louisbourg. So there definitely could be something to do with something that was brought there. I still think it goes back older than that, based on all the things they've been finding over the years. Like there almost seems to be multiple treasures, right? Like I can't sort of fathom this Roman, to me that's kind of too far out there, but
yeah, me too.
It could have been part of a Templar, hoard or something that somehow got, separated, and
they're finding some
but
vase.
Yeah, I mean it's like I said, anything's possible. I just know my research points to Masonic involvement starting around 1760 for sure, when Charles Morris created that map, which I believe has ciphers, and when the first lot owners, Jonathan Prescott in particular, and Jonathan Seacombe, who was a very good friend of the Belchers, that all points, to me to a certain time period, and yeah.
And also with the Freemasonry, this 13-foot round replica, not replica because the money pit didn't have all stones around the top and the bottom. Anything on Freemasonry that they would have some kind of ritual with such a big 13-foot round foundation or a tower or something, and this number 13 comes up all the time. 1-3. I can't tell you how many times the number 13 came up, Scott. Any ideas on it?
I mean, I've heard that that's also a Masonic number 13, but like I said, the pit itself, it's absolutely reminiscent of the Royal Arch degree back in the 1700s. Back then, the very earliest description said it must be held underground, in a deep, in a pit underground with a single trapdoor at the top for a brother mason to be, led down through, and it's very specific, and it absolutely was meant to be outdoors underground. And nowadays they do a symbolic, they pretend to have a sort of a pit, and masons sort of go through a, theoretical degree, but yeah, at one time it was definitely meant to be like that. Now 13 feet, I don't know about that, but it would have to be big enough for someone to go down, and for them to have layers of logs, and probably ladders were involved at first, to
so anything as far as a smaller or shallower 13-foot round stone, like a big huge fire pit type of deal, no connection as far as long ago about them making something like that for the Freemasons.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And here they are. They're sticking the sewer camera down the casing to see the shaft, and they hit up with clay. The whole island's full of clay, blue clay or regular clay. So that's when they said they have to get the 6-inch drill, Scott, and go right through the stuff to take a look. So I guess that's part of next week.
Right. Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And the gold values. Now, if they had gold values at 55 feet in a shaft, Scott, 55 feet, because the garden shaft has been flooded for all these decades, wouldn't they say that 55-foot level, because gold is heavy, would be an offset chamber sort of at the 55-foot level, then more at the 90-foot level if gold settles at a 55 feet level? You know what I mean? I don't get how that starts like that. What do you think, Scott?
Yeah, I can't really say. I mean, I just know that back in the day, there was definitely recorded that there was a blowout. The original money pit was there.
Yeah.
And as Graham Harris and Les McPhee talk about in their book, they're both geotechnical engineers.
Yeah.
They proved that there was a blowout.
Yeah.
And everything scattered, and things just went poof. And then they've been pumping water down, and probably things have been going up and down, and so yeah, it's like Swiss cheese. It's like stuff moving around, and yeah. So I mean, things could really be at any level, but yeah, I don't know.
I hear you. Then this thing that they called a token, a Roman token. This is another rant that a lot of researchers said it was a whistler or a buzzard with the 2 holes in it.
I saw that online, yes.
And
people thought it was more modern.
Everybody's going crazy. And now again, it showed up again last night. Michelle says, I'm confused. In episode 21, Sandy, the coin guy, was 100% sure the lead Barton token from Let 5 was 5th century Roman and had photos of it. Now, on episode 24, Chris McFarlane examination says the same piece is 14th century French of identical material as the Templar cross found on the beach. So, guys, it's just getting more confusing. And like I'm telling Scott, and Scott knows, the guys do what they have to do. Gary goes out and finds what he has to find. They go out every day. They're wired up, and whatever they find at that time is found right then and there. Videotaped, cataloged, and all that information. I've talked to other people that they send all that information to the editor. It comes back from the editor to the producer. They refine it a little bit, goes back to the editor for time constraints. Then here's the one you got to think of, guys. It goes to production in California. And those are the guys that put the story together. That's the bottom line. You know what I mean? So they try to steer the story to the Templars, to the Freemasons, to the pirates. That's part of the production side. It's kind of getting hard to get used to it because a lot of us are more determined on this stuff. They probably never thought they'd have Facebook groups, Scott, really tearing everything apart. And our experts are just as good as their experts. You know what I mean, Scott?
Yeah, it seems that way. Yeah. But yeah, you're right. They have a storyboard that they set up, and they try to anticipate how the season will go based on what's been found and what they want to focus on, that kind of
Yep.
thing. And certain things get left behind, and it's yeah,
No.
can be a bit frustrating at times.
And here's a picture of that 13-foot mysterious stone formation, which they just bought lot 5. And so we just barely scratched the surface on that because Gary had like about 47 flags set up on there, and we hardly hit any of those yet, Scott, this season.
Right. Yeah, I remember when I was there, I was going around with Jack and just seeing all the flags everywhere, and
Yeah.
crazy. Yeah.
And now they're sort of pushing that 13-foot hole on lot 5 could be the hatch on Xena's map. So they're tying it. You can see the tie-ins coming in, Scott. Can you feel the tie-ins coming in?
Definitely.
Yeah.
And even that 13 feet, I mentioned in my book, one of the earliest accounts said it was 16 feet.
16.
So, yep. So there's been differences over the years, and but it sort of became 13 was the accepted number that got sort of written into the
Right. I wish they would correct some of these things, like, the 3 kids on the boat. Kids. McGinnis was 36 years old.
It was men. Yeah, exactly. It was McGinnis was a man, 37. and that I talk about that in the book as well. That's part of the, I think, because there was Vaughn. So McGinnis was friends with Vaughn.
Yep.
But it was Vaughn Jr. who later talked to the people in the early Onslow company. Vaughn Jr., not Vaughn Sr. Vaughn Sr. is the one that would have been connected doing the work.
Mm-hmm.
Vaughn Jr. was 13 at the time, so he would have been probably helping his dad.
Yeah.
But he would have just been maybe hearing things, and so that added to the confusion as well. It wasn't a first-hand account, or it wasn't fully a first-hand account. It was maybe partially.
Yep. And also they said the lead from this token supposedly is the same from the lead cross.
Right.
But that could have been a musket ball lead that's been repurposed and redid about 1 million times, because everybody did everything over and over. They never threw anything out. So now they're trying to connect this token type of thing to the lead cross. Now that's getting too much stretchy for me.
Yeah, I mean, how accurate is that dating? I guess if that's if it's accurate, it's interesting, obviously. But
right. And here they are at the swamp with the ramp. And when Scott said this, I said, no kidding. I got 70,000 people saying the same thing. Scott says, the suspense is killing me here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, Judy?
For sure, John. We're all going a little crazy.
Yep, Daniel, I got it. But we'll just keep on pushing that narrative on that side, no matter what we say. But it's up to them. We put it out there. They believe it or not. You got different angles, different situations, and believe who you believe. That's all you can do. It's all part of the story. It's all part of this Oak Island craziness, And then Gary found a doorknob. I always kid him on that other one. Last year I went wild. They found some kind of gold thing and they promoted it, Scott, right? So I'm pumping it, right? Oh, we finally got a piece of gold, and it was a gold doorknob. Or a brass looking doorknob.
Right.
I says, oh my lordy 40.
Yeah.
So now they find this doorknob. So everybody's saying, well, it's part of the other side of the door. And of course, it's got to be to a ship. It's a vessel knob. Looks like a brass door handle. Very interesting. But like I said, this ramp and the pathway and the stone path, it really doesn't do anything for me but just get dates. We're still asking the same question 10 years later. What was it for? we got dates, okay, but what did they use it for? We still don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was clearly meant to reinforce,
muck.
unloading something heavy and moving something around. But
yeah.
Other than that, it doesn't really.
You put stones in the muck so you can walk on it. You know what I mean?
Yep.
If it's always swampy, you throw down some boards, you throw down some rocks, and you can walk over. But just why? You know what I mean? That's the big old question. Why? Will we ever find out?
And what's the date on that again?
1200.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
I know. There's those dates that go back to Templar times. I don't know.
But what other, what have we found to corroborate a Templar find? Nothing. I mean, theories, yeah, sure, but the cross, okay, but for 10 years, show me more proof. I need more proof to actually say, yep, the Templars stopped here, or they went by and they went to the New World, or whatever they did. And that's where the Mi'kmaq come in. That's why I've been trying to get the president to come on a podcast to just see their history of what they know about the association, like their museum. Do they have a museum with stuff from this time period? Of course they do. But do we ever see it? I don't think so.
Yeah. And I believe, didn't James write about in one of his first books about Glooscap?
Yeah.
Being a connection to Henry Sinclair. And so I know he felt back then that he had potential proof of a connection there.
No. So this is where they put the casing in. I'm looking for some kind of material to come up on the shaft. And this is what we got, Scott. A toothpick full of wood that's good enough for carbon dating on the supposedly original depositor tunnel. And now they said they're going with a bigger 6-inch replacement and then get a camera down in there. One of those, they got the bigger cameras now.
One of the things I hope they might try and do in my book, I talked about how in one of the early descriptions, it talks about how when they were drilling, something caved in and a big, large piece of wood was ejected from the original money pit area. And they actually made that into walking sticks, apparently. And one of those walking sticks was given to the editor of a newspaper in Liverpool.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Step back.
Yeah.
A piece of wood came out of where? Who made what?
So 1860s, I believe.
Okay.
Jonathan Macaulay, one of the early accounts he was talking about, says that they were down in the money pit area drilling.
All right.
And something collapsed and a big piece of wood came out of nowhere.
Okay.
It wasn't a piece of wood that they had put there. It was an original piece of wood from whatever workings were underground. So they made that into apparently walking sticks, which were fashionable at the time, right? And one of them was given to a man who was the editor of a newspaper in Liverpool, who I found out later was a Freemason, of course. And so I have a friend in Liverpool, Linda, who's the director of Queens County Museum.
Okay.
And I asked her if she would mind looking into it. And it was amazing to find out right away that the lodge that this person belonged to closed down, and a lot of their archives were actually donated to this museum, Queens County Museum. So Linda looked into it, not thoroughly, but sort of give it a general look, and she actually found a number of other walking sticks or walking sticks in general, but nothing specifically that would point it towards Oak Island or this gentleman from the newspaper editor. So I don't know if the sticks would have had something, Oak Island carved into it or what it was, but I just thought that would be a really cool thing to try and trace.
Yeah, it sounds fantastic.
If you can find that and carbon date it, that would be amazing. So I that's also in my book, and it's something I'm hoping the guys on the island might want to try and pursue further. Try to trace it a bit further.
There's this book, guys. The Oak Island Odyssey, Masonic Quest, Scott Clarke. Beautiful.
Yep. Thank you.
All right, guys. That's all I got. Judy, you still there with us?
I'm still here, John, listening.
Not ready. If you want to say your goodbyes, and then Scott will say his goodbyes, and I'll say my goodbyes, and thank him so much for coming on. And go ahead, Judy.
Okay, Scott, I just want to say happy birthday again. I'm glad you could spend it with us at Quest.
Thanks very much, Judy.
Have a good week, everybody. Enjoy Oak Island next Tuesday night. And I will be back with you next Wednesday night with my synopsis. And in the meantime, everybody, please stay safe. Please. And we'll talk to you soon, John.
Okay, Judy, thank you for all you do for me. Thank you.
Thanks, Judy.
Yep, bye-bye.
And Scott, I want to thank you so much for coming on. Stay in the staging area once I say my goodbyes. Talk to you for about 2-3 minutes. And very happy birthday from the Quest family to you. Thank you so much, everybody. I'll put his book up one more time.
I really appreciate all the birthday wishes and for you having me on, John. It was great. And I just want to mention one quick thing that I know there's lots of people reading my book right now, and I would really appreciate it if people wouldn't mind maybe putting a review on Amazon afterwards. If they bought the book on Amazon, or if they have an account on Amazon, would be very, very helpful to me for reviews to start accumulating.
All right, I'll put that once I put up another snippet. I'll put that in the comment section to please put a review in after you have read the book. If that can help you out in any way, let me know.
Yeah, I mean, it's helpful to other people, obviously, to know what people think. And yeah.
All right, Scotty. Well, I thank you so much. I'll see you in the staging area. Take care. Be good.
Good night, all.
And we'll talk to you in a little while. There you go, guys. Scott Clarke. Get his new book, Oak Island Canes. Oh, my lordy 40. We learned something new. Even going into 10 years, we always listening and finding out new facts. Well, everybody have a good weekend. And all the mothers out there, have a great Sunday. Happy Mother's Day. This coming Sunday for all the moms out there. And I really appreciate you guys coming in here. But remember, guys, what do I always say? Always go forward. You may get a setback in your life, but just believe in yourself. Believe in your dreams, no matter how old you are. For tomorrow's a never given. With this crazy world we live in, the world needs a ton of prayers right now. So as my friend Jan says, you be kind, you keep smiling, and you stay safe. And also, you stay strong, and everybody stay on the positive side. I want to thank you for joining me, Scott, Judy. I'll see you next Tuesday pre-show at 6:45 for the final season show. Then Judy will be with me on Wednesday, and we'll go over the final show with tears in her eyes. I hope you enjoyed the show and the podcast tonight. Thank you. Take care, and bye-bye.